Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Forum of the Day. I'm Divya Monokumar, a moderator to the Forum of today. First of all, I would like to thank to all of the audience who watching our live forum session today. Our topic for today is the effects of minimum wages on labor productivity. Before we begin our forum discussion, let me introduce to all of you about our panels today. All of them have a lot of knowledge and also expert in this topic that we will discuss. Our first panelist is Ms. Ragini, a famous economist in Malaysia. How are you today, Ms. Ragini?
I'm fine, Miss Divya. How about you?
I'm good. Thank you. Next, we have Professional Human Resource Manager, Mr. Law. Also, we have Ms. Nurul Izzah, an employee from Top Star Company. And last one, Ms. Shamodeshwari, also an employee from Smart Cool Company. Before we begin our forum in detail, let me explain about our topic today. Recently, our government has fixed the new minimum wage nationwide rate of 1,500 ringgit from 1st May 2022 to 31st December 2022. However, employees with fewer than 5 employees, on the other hand, will only be required to pay at least 1,500 ringgit starting in January next year. This would be 8 months from the May 1st rate for other employees. Besides that, from May 1st to December 31st, the minimum monthly pay for employees in areas under city councils or municipal will remain at 1,200 ringgit or 5 ringgit 75 cent per hour, while employees in areas that are not under city councils or municipal council will continue to be 1,100 ringgit or 5 ringgit 29 cent per hour. However, minimum wages not only have to decrease wage disparity and channel productivity increases into higher salaries, but they can also help to boost labor productivity at both at firms level and across the economy as a whole. With this, I would like to ask the opinion from Ms. Ragini. As an economist, what would happen to the economy's overall efficiency after minimum wages were implemented?
Thank you to the moderator, Miss Divya Kumar. Hello, viewers. Good evening. I'm Ragini Ramanathan. Basically, I'm an economist. So today I would like to answer the question asked by our moderator. So, based on the question, my opinion about what would happen to the economic overall efficiency after minimum wages were implemented. First, it will reduce employee turnover. Higher wages discourage workers to quit. This is especially important if hiring and training new workers is a time-consuming and costly pursuit. Moreover, it also reduces absenteeism. When workers earn higher wages, they are absent from work less, leading to increased productivity. Raising the minimum wage stimulates the economic by increasing consumer spending. Raising the minimum wage would increase low-paid employee incomes and significantly boost GDP. And employment, low-paid workers are primarily beneficiated by an increase in the minimum wage because they are the one most likely to reinvest their extra income into the economic, sparking a positive feedback loop that result in increased demand for goods and service, employment growth, and higher productivity. Second is raise morale. Similarly, an efficiency wage can keep workers happier and minimize the number of disgruntled employees who can bring down morale among other slow down production. Third is increased productivity. Higher wages lead to more productive workers who produce relatively more goods per hour and show greater effort. These wages also reduce so-called shrinking or being on the job and to cut down on absenteeism. Fourth is attract and retain skilled workers. While unskilled worker may be viewed as somewhat interchangeable from the perspective of management, highly skilled workers are often in higher demand and shorter supply. The last is trust and loyalty. Higher paid workers tend to be more loyal to a company and are far less likely to steal or undercut the company's bottom line. The recent studies also have shown that minimum wages not only help to reduce wage dispersion and to channel productivity gain into higher wages, but they also can contribute to higher labor productivity, both at the enterprise level and at the aggregate economic wide level. At the aggregate level, minimum wage can result in more productivity firm replacing least productivity one and surviving firm becoming more efficient. This mechanism can increase overall economic wide productivity. That's all from me. Thank you.
Well said, Ms. Ragini. From your explanation, we can conclude that minimum wage requirements can lead in far more productive organizations, substituting the less productive and ensuring organizations becoming more efficient. This mechanism has the potential to increase economy-wide productivity. Thank you, Ms. Ragini, on your opinion. Let's move to Mr. Law. What is your opinion on the effect of minimum wage?
Good evening to all panelists and audience. I'm so glad to be one of the guests here. So, based on my today topic, I can state that the implementation of minimum wage has contributed to higher level productivity at the firm level. Wage are the most important motivator for many workers to go to work, and they have a positive relationship with employee life satisfaction. Meanwhile, fringe perks promote workers' abilities and expertise while also improving the company reputation. Around the world, minimum wage rules support the notion of providing a basic living wage to workers. According to the efficiency wage theory, paying workers a wage higher than revenue product may benefit the businesses. According to the hypothesis, workers will be more productive if they are paid a greater wage. The worker may feel more loyal and attached to the firm if they are paid more. This benefits the company because lower employee turnover lower the cost of acquiring and training a new employees. Moreover, we may notice the better performance from employee and also they may stop working at their side jobs and focus when coming to work at the company. That's all from me.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. The implementation of higher minimum wage has given more benefits to both organizations and also to employees, such as contribution to higher labor productivity at the firm level and getting paid more. Thank you, Mr. Law, for your opinion on this topic today. Well, I read an article for the decades. Economists were almost unanimous in their belief that raising minimum wages like any other law would significantly diminish employment. Some people insist on bringing up the issues of prospective job costs. However, that viewpoint has shifted, with the majority now believing that a big increase is a good idea. A researcher, Nobel laureate David Card, who found that increasing minimum wages did not lead to increased unemployment. With that being said, I would like to ask Ms. Nurul Izzah, in your opinion, do you think the implementation of minimum wage could result in lower turnover?
First of all, thank you, moderator Ms. Divya, for inviting us for discuss about this topic today. Good evening, everyone. As an employee, in my opinion, yes, the implementation of minimum wage can reduce turnover. In fact, it can lift many out of poverty and benefit those in the bottom half, including those making more than the minimum wage. A higher wage structure would put off hiring of new workers rather than employing them at lower wage until they become more experienced. However, a research on the implementation of previous minimum wage levels in Malaysia shows that it tends to increase labor productivity, act as a motivator, and reduce employment turnover. In fact, longer-term studies have shown that it reduces employment and increased labor participation rates. Furthermore, employees can learn on the job and be trained to become more productive over time if firms can better maintain their staff. With that, I believe that higher wages are shared evenly between the employer and the employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Izzah. You just briefly pointed out your opinions very clearly. Now I believe that it is true that the minimum wage does not reduce employment as a result of lower turnover. This does not imply that lower turnover is good for productivity. Without being late, let's move to our panelist Ms. Shamudeshwari. Ms. Shamu, I believe that the higher minimum wage can motivate employers and employees to work harder. What is your opinion on that?
Thank you to our moderator, Ms. Divya. Good evening, everyone. In my opinion, it is obvious that higher wages could motivate workers to work harder. Employees continuously offer higher effort levels in response to higher wages, the so-called efficiency wage theory. Most of these researchers have focused on individual business pay levels, demonstrating that higher pay can attract more experienced and motivated applicants when compared to other factors. Raising the minimum wage boosts worker productivity, resulting in higher quality service from firms. A corporation can raise its prices without losing sales volume since many customers are prepared to pay more when quality improves. As a result, even if employee salaries rise, earnings do not have to suffer. Furthermore, because firms gain better performance from workers in exchange for higher pay, a higher minimum wage does not always imply fewer jobs. Besides, more economic value is created with a more productive workforce and there is more money to go around. Thus, a higher income for one individual does not indicate a loss for another. Consequently, if minimum wages are well designed, they can result in better results, with employees obtaining higher earnings and employers paying the same or slightly higher average labor cost. Thank you.
Well, higher minimum wage does motivate employees to work even harder to improve productivity in the firms. Well said, Ms. Shamu. Thank you for your great opinion. As we all know, raising minimum wage has been an issue for decades. Whether raising the minimum wage causes inflation is a hotly debated topic. The main argument centers on whether increasing the minimum wage leads to cost-push inflation as businesses try to recoup their increased costs by raising prices. Some economists contend that artificial labor market imbalances brought on by minimum wage increases result in inflation. Other economists point out that historically, inflation has not followed increases in the minimum wage. Ms. Ragini, in your opinion, what do you think about inflation? How does the rise in the minimum wage affect inflation?
Thank you, Divya. Okay, let's talk about the inflation. Okay, some people believe that raising the minimum wage will exacerbate inflationary pressure. For instance, if a restaurant owner is suddenly required to pay his staff 1,500 instead of 1,200, he will need to increase the cost of his goods. However, it is likely that most workers in metropolitan area in Malaysia currently receive pay that is close to the suggested figure of 1,500. Consequently, there may not be much more price pressure in this religion. According to the current methodology, it is anticipated that the new rate would take into account and disparity between cost and wages in urban area and rural area. Additionally, in Malaysia, the influence of inflation on employment is typically negligible. In fact, research in Malaysia demonstrate that Malaysia labor market typically adhere to the efficiency wage hypothesis, according to which an increase in expense from higher pay would be offset by an improvement in productivity and an increase in employee retention. Because rising productivity would offset any prospective price increase, there aren't expected to be significant inflationary pressure. As a result, it appeared that the new higher rate may indicate an overall favorable picture. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your great opinion on inflation, Ms. Ragini. I hope the viewer will understand how the minimum wage does affect inflation. Next, Mr. Law, since the government announced about the implementation of high minimum wage, small and medium-sized enterprises and manufacturers in particular have warned that the hike in Malaysia's minimum wage is too quick and harsh, and that it could impede the nation's economy recovery because many companies haven't fully recovered from the pandemic and aren't yet ready to sustain the cost. In your opinion, how does this issue affect the small sized business? What do you suggest to government to protect the small sized business?
Earlier, I mentioned that the implementation of minimum wage has contributed to higher labor productivity at the firm level. The national minimum wage towards Malaysia, according to the Malaysian Employers Federation, will eliminate the businesses that are still engaged in economic recovery. Due to the economic shock caused by the COVID-19 outbreak and the recent flows, the majority of enterprises were not in a position to adopt the plan increase the minimum wage. A little cost rise, like the increase in the minimum wage, could force the closure of the majority of small and medium-sized firms who are already struggling. And in my opinion, although the rise of minimum wage benefit the employee, but the government also should focus on efforts to help the private sectors like small and medium-sized businesses. Small and medium-sized businesses recover and control the rising cost of products and services. That's all for me.
Thank you, Mr. Law, for your great talk. As we can see, every small business has been slowly recovering from pandemic outbreak. At this time, it is unfair for them to hike minimum wage since they haven't fully recovered from the pandemic. Thus, the government should help small firms to secure the food businesses. Now, let's move on to next panelist. Ms. Shamu, I would like to ask you a question. How would you manage your purchasing power as an employee making a high minimum pay given that the cost of necessities keeps sharply rising? What would you do in response so that, and how would you handle it?
Hello, Divya. Okay, first of all, thanks for the question. As an employee, how do I manage my purchasing power since the prices of all needs goods for daily life keep increasing drastically, right? Okay, for this question, I will share my experience and how I struggle in this inflation situation. First, I only buy important goods only like rice, sugar, bread, flour and etc. I was trying to avoid expensive goods such as big bottles of oil which cost around 50 ringgit plus. Other than that, I myself try to eat more vegetables than non-vegetarians because all meats are rising in price. In this way, I personally can stay fit and also stay healthy. But I consume chickens once a while.
Ms. Shamu, sorry for the intervention. If you didn't buy oil means how will you cook?
That's an interesting question, Miss Divya. How do I cook without oil? Okay, I bought a small hair fryer which is helping me to cook my vegetables all without oil. But sometimes I buy small packets of oil which cost me just around 2 ringgit 50 cent only for cooking the curry. Not only that, our country facing inflation now, so we should save the money as much as we can. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Wow, that's a good idea, Ms. Shamodeshwari, which can implement by our viewers also in their daily life. Thank you, Ms. Shamu, for your response. I believe every viewer will understand what Ms. Shamu had said just now. Next, Ms. Ilza, as you are aware, Malaysia is now experiencing a high level of inflation, which has led to sharp price increases for all basic necessities. It appears that our cost of living is rising. Despite everything, how are you managing your personal finances at, as an employee?
Thank you, Miss Divya, for that question. So, for a rising cost of living typically indicates that essential expenses have increased in price. Low-income households are particularly affected since they must spend a bigger portion of their income on necessities like food and gas. Low-income households are disproportionately affected by price increases. However, because our minimum wage has grown, we can save some money for ourselves even though the cost of necessities has gone up. The best method to deal with growing inflation is to get back to the fundamentals. I always be aware of what that I'm spending my money on. Moreover, I have thought about ways to boost my income and planning to have a long-term investment strategy. I carefully examining my invoices, eliminating everything I don't need, and attempting to lower or negotiate the remaining amounts so that I might be able to offset some of increase in my spending. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eza, for your great response. Without being late, let's move to our last question with Mr. Law. The government has implemented new minimum wage generally for economic recovery. But as you mentioned earlier, some businesses like the small and medium-sized businesses are suffering with the new minimum wage rise since they haven't recovered from hardcore pandemic. Do you think the government will increase again the minimum wage in future?
Okay, so from my perspective, the government announcement of the higher minimum wage is primarily intended to help our country recover from the current economic crisis. I believe that the present minimum wage will soon be able to recover from the current economic crisis. And I would recommend that the government refrain from raising the minimum wage in the future. And that's all from me. Thank you, moderator.
Well said, Mr. Law. Thank you so much. As we bring our human resource management issues forum to a close, we once again thank you all allowing us to be here this evening and hope that this issue has given you much clearer understanding of the effect of minimum wages on labor productivity. We would welcome the opportunity to return with another group of expertise to present a different human resource management issues forum topic in the near future. Thank you everyone.